When I was growing up, I spent a lot of time on a baseball diamond and a softball diamond. Well, not on them, but around them, because my father was a coach. He coached both of those sports, and he's also coached other stuff, but particularly those. And so I got familiar with many playgrounds and just ways to occupy yourself during games, sometimes double headers, the JV games. Um, and I was seemed to be one of the oldest coaches' kids. Because from what I remember, well, either that or I was right in the middle and some were too old and not around. Because I remember my mom sitting on the bleacher with other coaches' wives, and many times her volunteering my services to take the children, all the children, over to some playground, like safely cross the parking lot. So I had this keen sense of responsibility, especially as an oldest child. And I remember one time watching a fairly young mom with this adorable little girl, a coach's mom, and the little girl had on this frilly kind of dress at a ball diamond, which that in itself was unique. But she was just a very playful, had a lot of personality child, about 2.5, 3 years old. And the mom got comfortable enough with me to allow me to take her over to the playground with about 3 or 4 other kids who were older, and my sister included. But before we went over, I had been watching them, and the little girl, something had happened where she got hurt. And I remember watching her mom pick her up, and she gave her mom this biggest hug and was crying really hard. And the mom's hug pretty much was all it did to make her feel better. It took a little bit, but that was one of the first times I was like, wow, look what it means to be a mom. And thinking, wow, that would be a cool feeling to have. So anyway, we go across to play, and she held my hand and we had fun playing, and she wanted me to push her in swings and stuff. But I had wondered if she liked me well enough after a certain amount of time that if she got hurt, would I get to give her a hug like that? Because her mom was on the other side of the ball complex. Um, and so the more I thought about it while I was playing with all these kids and keeping track of them, I thought, I wonder if she would. Um, but she was being very safe, and I was keeping her very safe, and she played really well. So one time when I came up behind her or kind of nearby and there were other kids around, um, I pinched her. And to this day, I can't believe I did that. It wasn't very hard, but hard enough that I pinched her. And it took her a little bit, and she turned, and I tried to pick her up because she was crying, so it must have been kind of hard. And I wanted to give her a hug, and she wanted nothing to do with me. Um, I don't think she knew I had done it, but she wanted nothing to do with me. She just wanted her mom. So my job was to pick her up and take her over to her mom. I didn't confess that I had pinched her, and that's why she was crying. But as soon as she got to her mom gave her a hug, and everything was fine. Um, I tell this story sometimes when I go out and speak in relationship to involuntary joy because I have no other explanation when I get asked the question, do you think God did this to you? No. And when they say, did this to you, or when they say, do you think, maybe sometimes the question is, do you think God gave you straws for a reason? Um, no. And I know what I'm going to tell you, some of you are going to argue with me about in your head because people in person argue with me. They evidently know more about my life than I do, and say, oh, yes, he did. God knew that you could handle it. Well, here's the thing. God doesn't pinch. That love between a parent and a child that's so intense, um, you don't hurt your children. Now, I just saw the movie Precious. Can't fathom the circumstances involved in that where a parent would be that cruel to a child and that abuse would happen. Something's happened in those people's lives to cause them to have a different construct of the world. And that happens to us as humans, doesn't it? We get messed up by the world around us. And our way of acting and relating to one another gets screwed up. But at the purest sense, when you can look and see love and know what it looks like and feels like, you can't hurt your child. So did God create babies with birth defects? I can't believe that. And I have never believed that. From the moment my son first breathed life, I have never been mad at God. I have no reason to be. And I think it's probably because of that lesson I learned all the way back when I was 8 years old. Love doesn't pinch. God certainly doesn't pinch. And when somebody continues to argue with me and say that, yes, or they just look like they know more than I do, and how naive it is of me that I can't accept what God has done to me. It's, oh, I've accepted it. I understand that life pinches really bad sometimes. And God's with you through it. God doesn't cause it. For if he did, why would we want to have him be the one comforting us? Not who I would want for my hug and my kiss. I want to go running to my mom. I want to go running to my dad. Because they would never pinch me.